All right, and we are live. Hello to everyone in the chat. Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Tori, and today I am super excited to have a nice, relaxing sit-down book friends chat with the lovely Cassidy from Covers with Cassidy. If you don't know Cassidy and you want to go check out her channel, please go look in the description box because I remembered to put it there. Hi, Cassidy. Thank you for hanging out with me this evening.
Thanks for having me. I never do anything like this, so it feels really cool. I think you're like my first.
Really? You're kidding me.
Like I'm always on sprints and stuff, but I don't think I've ever done just like a sit down chat with someone.
It's really fun. It's one of my favorite things to do on the channel when it can just be a really informal, let's chat about books, let's dig into what we like and don't like, and usually it goes off the rails and we go on really interesting tangents. So
yeah, it'll probably go off the rails. I'm really good at that.
Awesome. Same. So we'll be fine. We've got a ton of people in the comments already. Hi, Philip. I almost said hi, Cassidy, but that was you. Hi, Tira, Brittany, Kaylee. I recognize some of these names from your sprints.
Yes.
Coco, hey. Lantern Valley's been up in the live streams a bunch for us lately. Hello. Kay, another Canadian booktuber.
I did know Kay was Canadian.
We were just talking before we went live about how Cassidy feels like there's not a lot of Canadian booktubers. And I feel like I know so many of them that maybe I just live in a bubble and think there's Canadian booktubers everywhere. But that's just me.
It also could be me living in a bubble. So,
I mean, I feel like booktube is a bubble to some degree. Hi, Andrew. Mike, feel free, you guys, if you have questions, comments as we get going here, feel free to throw those in the chat and we will get to them. So, Cassie, I'm going to start with a really, really easy question. What are you reading right now?
Oh, a fan favorite for a lot of people. I'm reading Nevernight for the first time.
Ooh. Is this your first J. Kristoff?
Yes and no. I've technically started Empire the Vampire in audio format while I was driving and put it down and was like slightly bored, but said I wanted to give Nevernight. Like I was more interested in Nevernight, so I was like, I'm gonna give Nevernight a try and I'll come back to Empire the Vampire if I like it.
Okay.
I'm 30 pages in, so I'm not very far in, but I'm predicting a 5-star. So
already.
Yes. I really learned that I like young female protagonists in adult books who are out for revenge and are going to prove you wrong. And I feel like
I remember you mentioning this one in that vein before.
The Poppy War is one of my favorite books. Red Sister, you know, we have Nona.
Yeah.
So I really like that type of protagonist I learned. So I'm like 5 stars probably.
Nice. So do you feel like when you're reading, do you typically know, like how soon do you know once you get into a book? You're like, yep, this is going to be.
I think I like, based off like probably the first 50 pages, I can give you a rough estimate.
Wow.
And then it changes sometimes. Like sometimes, like especially if it's a 3-star feeling at the beginning, it depends. Like that one really changes. Where with like a 5-star, I'm assuming it'll be a 5 or a 4 then by the end. Like I'd be shocked. Like you'd have to really anchor me. I feel like writing style is like really important and whether you like vibe with the character automatically and stuff. But
yeah, I feel like it doesn't take a very long time to get at least a sense of if you're going to jive with the writer's style. And I'm sure you probably are similar to me in the sense that you got to hook me with a character really quick.
I'm a little bit more world driven, but like like characters can do it for me, but like if there's an interesting world, I'm probably in. So, even if it's the same character.
But so would you say that the world is kind of your number one?
Yeah, probably. I really like a cool world. But at the same time, like all of my favorites have characters that I loved. So I never know. I struggle with this. It's something I really struggle with. Whether I'm character driven or not. It's just.
But Cassidy, we're supposed to know this about ourselves. We're booktubers.
I feel like I should. I go through like a crisis every time I read a book, and I'm like, I hate this because the characters suck, or I love this because the characters love, and I'm like, what
is happening?
No
yeah, how about magic system? So does that kind of factor into the world for you? Like, how important is the magic system for you?
Pretty important because I'm very logic driven, and so if I see holes in a magic system, it really takes enjoyment out for me. So like a hard magic system is definitely more to where I gravitate towards because I often am like, this makes no sense.
Mm-hmm. But it just kind of is. It's just there because.
Yeah.
So favorite hard magic systems, I'm guessing, is there some Sanderson in there then? Kind of, sort of, maybe? Or
yeah, yeah. I mean, the Mistborn magic system is always the best magic system to exist, but I feel like I never need to talk about it because, like, he doesn't need it. Like, everyone knows that that's a great magic system.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of Canadian, yes, Theo from Rekindled Reader, who's a close friend of mine, is wonderful. He's a Canadian. Anitha is amazing. She's also Canadian. So have you read Red Rising?
I've read the first 3.
You've read, okay. Same. Oh my goodness. Thank you.
I've not yet continued. And I read them a really long time ago, and I really liked them.
Yeah, so Cassidy, why have you not read Iron Gold and Dark Age yet?
It's scary when it like is like a new but not new thing. Like it's scary.
Are you guys all listening to this? It's feeding my soul right now. Thank you. I get called a fake fan every once in a while because Red Rising is one of my favorite trilogies of all time, and I haven't continued on to Iron Gold and Dark Age for the same reason, because it's like, these are my characters. And like, what if they are wrecked? Like, I'm not sure if I'm okay with that.
I feel that.
Yeah. So hard magic systems and worlds. So what are some of your, like, if you could give like kind of a top 5 book series that kind of jump out at you right away that are like, these are Cassidy books?
I feel like none of those match with hard magic system and world, and I think that's the funniest part. Because like my favorites are like the Poppy War. I recently I always say I don't like YA, but I recently fell in love with the Aurelian Cycle by Rosaria Munda.
Okay.
Which is like dragons and politics and goodness.
That's not Fourth Wing, is it?
No, Fireborn.
Fireborn, yep. Okay.
Red Sister. Live ships.
Okay.
Last one. I don't know where this is right now. This is so hard. I just made this list on my channel too. Why can't I think of it? Probably City of Brass. Like probably David Bed.
Okay. That's one that's been on my list for a while that like I really want to get to, because I've been hearing enough about it that I feel like that's one that I'm gonna really enjoy. So
yeah, it's so good. It's like I recommend it to anyone like looking to start fantasy. Like I think it's one of those. Also, I think Maria's right, because I'm pretty sure all of those are character driven books and none have a hard magic system.
I mean, I wasn't gonna say anything, but chat is always right. I did, Kay, and I'm very excited about it, because now when people come after me, I can be like, hey, Cassidy has 6,000 plus subscribers and she has the same opinion. So
I also have yet to read First Law, which now you have read the first book. So I'm now the only person in existence to not have read it. It's sitting right there too.
I mean, my husband even just started it this morning, and he's like 5 years behind everybody for fantasy books. So, I mean, you're just going to have to do it now. Yeah. You could catch me. I haven't read the 3rd one yet.
I'm so scared of this series. I'm not going to lie.
What scares you about it?
That it's character driven.
But if you're a character, okay, in fairness, it is not a hard magic system at all. Like, the magic is kind of there. So I can see where that could, throw you off a little bit. The characters are quite excellent.
I think why I always say I'm not character driven is because books that are like the plot is solely like the characters, they tend to not work for me. Like I need more than just like watching the characters like journey and like them growing. Like I need a little bit more than that. So that's why like character driven books scare me.
Yeah.
One day I will try it, but I don't think today's the day.
That's fair. So for you, like, I know I've been kind of in this rut lately where I don't want to read about characters traveling from point A to point B and taking a really long time to get there. Like, that's just not where I'm at right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I'm noticing is like really long, drawn out training montages.
Yes.
Like, I love a coming of age story so much, especially a young warrior coming of age story. I always love those. But like after a while, the training montages just kind of start to feel the same. So
yes. Unless you're helping me develop the plot, I probably don't want it again and again and again.
Right. Right. You can only like have two young people fighting with sticks so many times. We got some love for Fireborn in the chat.
Yes.
Interesting, Kay. So I am really curious to see where Blade itself or the First Law trilogy ends up. With Abercrombie, I feel like he's very unpredictable. I feel like, which is kind of fun. Like it takes a lot for me to be truly surprised by a fantasy book anymore. And I was surprised multiple times in especially the second book. So I feel like I have no idea where this trilogy is going to end, which is kind of fun.
It is fun.
It is kind of fun because I was really surprised as I was going through your Goodreads, and you've read a lot of fantasy. Like, I was really impressed by just how I'm like scrolling because I feel like I'm so far behind on all of the like major series and books. So
it's kind of interesting that you say that, considering I stopped reading. I picked up reading probably about 3 years ago again. And I stopped reading. The last thing I think I had read before that was probably like Twilight. And so I felt very behind. And then I just like spent 3 years binging anything and everything so that I understood things. And now I still don't understand things.
So what was the gateway? Because you came back. Like, do you remember what the first series you jumped into was?
Well, one was actually Red Rising because I went backpacking. So I went backpacking around Thailand 1 year, and then I went backpacking around Indonesia the next year, and both times I took a book with me.
Nice.
And so one time I took Red Rising, and I read all 3 of those while I was away, and then one time I did like The Handmaid's Tale.
Sure.
Which I would have never finished if it wasn't my only book on a month-long trip. But so that one, and then I don't know, I started watching BookTube, and I did the Scythe series, and then I did Red Sister. And I think Red Sister made me realize like that there's adult fantasy, like things that aren't just these little young kids. And then after that, probably like Hobb. I dived head first in. I did Mistborn. I've technically read The Way of Kings. I haven't continued yet because they're intimidating.
That's fair.
Even though I gave Way of Kings 5 stars, I look at those and I'm like, they're so long.
They are. Well, and especially like, and I want to get into BookTube a little bit later too, but do you feel like as a BookTuber, you try kind of avoid the really chonkery books, or do you feel like there's a different reason for that?
Yeah, because like the more you read, the more content you can put out. Sometimes it's hard to be like, I'm gonna sit aside 2 weeks, a month, however long to read this one book that I can't. And especially like for like what I do on BookTube, because I don't really do like book reviews necessarily. Sequels are really hard to work into my content. So the fact that they're all sequels is like really hard because like I just noticed that they do not as great. And like that's not why I read. So like I should like prioritize them more. But yeah, it is harder to say I'm gonna read a 1,000-page book than these 2 shorter books.
Yeah, well, because then you can talk about 2 completely different series, authors, etc. Versus, I mean, I read pretty much nothing but Brandon Sanderson in 2020, and I had a lot of Brandon Sanderson content, and that was great. But now I'm like, please let me read everything else.
The first year I did BookTuber, I was very much a binge reader. Like I would start a book, binge the entire series really quickly. And then I noticed in my top 10 list at the end of the year, I was like, And I barely have enough because I binged so many series. Like I read 10 books in the realm of the Elderling that year, and I was like, I can't just put Hob for every thing.
I mean,
So
there are some people on booktube that would argue that you could.
I could, like I could. But it wouldn't do as good for like my statistics. But
Right.
then so like the next year I said like I'm gonna stop binging series. And then I looked at my stats at the end of the year and I said, I've completed 2 series this entire year and I've started 84. Like that's not
not
good.
good.
So I'm trying to find a balance still.
Yeah, I feel like it definitely changes the reading experience, and it is really hard to find that balance of, you know, because I actually found I have missed to some degree binging series and just being able to finish the entire series and be like, wow. Because then I feel like it's harder for me, especially to retain things when I'm not squishing the books at least somewhat close together. So for Hob, you've read 10 of the 6, or have you read all of them?
Up to I have one last book in Rain Wilds.
Okay.
And then the last
final
trilogy.
Okay.
And what happened is I binged them all and then put it down, and took me forever to even. It took me 6 months to read the third Rain Wilds, and then that was like 4 months ago, and I haven't continued.
That one seems to be the one that I hear people polarized on the most. Do you feel like that's a fair?
I have an unpopular opinion that I like it,
Okay.
but I am here for the unpopular opinions. I hate Fitz. I literally hate Fitz. I think he's so annoying, and I'm like, he's always like, "Woe is me, dude. You don't have it that hard." I still love the Farseer books. Like they're all like, favorites of mine, but Fitz himself I hate. So I always like when I'm out of Fitz's head. I'm always like, yes, new characters.
I know a lot of people feel like that about Darrow from Red Rising too, which kind of like, I don't know. Darrow isn't the worst first-person narrator that I've read, I feel like, but I mean, he's not my favorite part of the trilogy by any stretch.
Yes, I mean, I agree.
It's everybody around him that makes him cool.
100% agree.
Lantern likes your this is Cassidy's quote of the evening here.
Yep.
Mood. Andrew writes some quite excellent traveling scenes, though, because here's my thing with traveling. Like, if you're going to go traveling, things have to happen while you're traveling. And I feel like that's where I get hung up, is if we're just like going and then we make our campfire and then we suit up the horses and we go a little further and then we find another shelter and then I'm just like, how many 100 pages of these are left?
Like,
yeah.
But there's some good traveling scenes out there that people
for sure.
They make them exciting.
Very much so. We have Alloy. I haven't read that one either. Have you read the second Era Mistborn?
I've read the first book in it.
How'd you feel about it?
It was okay for me. It was like a 3-star. I think it's the only Sanderson I haven't given 5 stars.
Really? Okay.
I've read Way of Kings, but not continued. Mistborn, Elantris, and Skyward, and the second one. I haven't continued.
Starsight?
Yeah.
Yeah. I loved Skyward. I really loved Skyward. Starsight was kind of where I fell off because it kind of took a turn that wasn't really where I wanted to go. And it's not my book, so like he can go wherever he wants with it.
Yeah.
But it was just like, okay, fine.
I just love Doomslug.
Right?
I just love Doomslug.
Absolutely.
Give me 100 pages of Doomslug traveling. Honestly,
if he released a Doomslug novella, I would read it and give it 5. I'd be one of those people that gave it 5 stars before I read it. On Goodreads. Those are our favorite people.
Always.
Yep. Book hasn't even come out yet, and everybody's like, this is the greatest thing I've ever read.
Literally. It's like, how?
How do you know that? Lantern wants to know if the magic feels loose soft for a long time. Before you get the rules for it, do you still like it, or would you not like it because it feels soft the whole time? So, like...
It really depends. I think how far, how much. Like, I'd hate being on these things. I have such unpopular opinions. The Like
I
Hangman
love.
trilogy is one of my least favorite trilogies.
Sure.
And I think it does this, where like I had a lot of holes in the magic system that are eventually filled up, but by the time they're filled up, I was done. Like,
You
I
were
was
done
like,
already.
no, you gave me my answers too late.
Mm-hmm. See, your hot takes are fine on my channel because I'm one of those weirdos who like thinks that everybody should be allowed to like and dislike what they want. I know that's a hot take in and of itself, I realize, but
So, and then I'm like scaring you all off with all my unpopular opinions because there's a lot of them.
I have a lot of unpopular opinions that I feel like I don't talk about that much just because I'm just I love you all, but the fandoms sometimes are just calm down, guys.
Gotta wait till like 3 hours into a live before you bring those opinions out.
Exactly. Have a glass of wine first. This is the other thing too. I don't know. How do you feel about FOMO? Because I know that gets me a lot. If my friends are reading a series and it's like
all the time.
I want to read them all so I can be part of the discussion.
All of the time. I'm doing pretty good this year. I've been binging quite a bit. I'm kind of finding a balance that's happening.
Nice.
But, the FOMO on new series is real.
It's very real. And I feel like some of the canon series too, like I feel like there's so many series that I haven't read that just everybody knows that I need to catch up on. I don't need to, but I'd like to.
Yes.
Also,
Lantern, FOMO is fear of missing out.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
It's down there, and I was like, I'll answer it now before we move on.
Thank you. Yeah, fear of missing out. It's like, and I feel like BookTube has just made that exponentially more.
Yes.
It's so with BookTube, how do you watch a lot of BookTube? I know you've mentioned on streams before that you procrastinate by watching BookTube.
I live and breathe BookTube. It's really bad. Thankfully, I own my own business, so I'm a wedding photographer. So I spend most of my time at my desk, and I have 2 computers. So like, while I'm editing, a lot of the time I will put just BookTube on because it's nice, easy. Don't have to pay attention to things while I'm doing other work that only needs like half my brain these days. So I watch a lot of BookTube. I also like to say I osmosis BookTube because I'm that weirdo that likes to sleep with my TV on. So I watch a lot of BookTube while I'm sleeping.
Okay, so you're really like eat, breathe, sleep BookTuber.
Yeah, literally. I love to wake up in the morning and see whose videos I watched.
That's awesome. That's good, Derek. I'm glad to hear everybody's called. That's excellent.
Are you a big BookTuber watcher?
I am.
I'm gonna ask you questions. You've asked me so many.
It's totally fine. Like, yeah. I'm in this weird position right now where I'm trying to. I get really stressed out if I can't keep up with everybody, which is impossible when you follow as many booktubers as we do. And so I try to kind of jump around as much as I can and like get a variety of, so I'm making sure that I'm watching as many people as I can and commenting on their videos. And, but right now I've been trying to adult as much as I can. And actually like, I kind of came to a point this year where I realized if I actually want to finish my book, I have to take some of the time that I'm spending on other things, reading included, and dial it back so that I can actually, sit down and finish something. Yeah. So, but yeah, I do watch quite a bit of BookTube. I'm curious. So with that much intake, what are your favorite BookTube videos to watch? And what are the ones that you're like, can we be done with this, please?
I'm a themed vlog person. I love themed vlogs. I don't know what it is. You could just slap a theme on there. Like you read 3 books and you're just going to call them books with titles. Like, books with titles. And for some reason it gets me. Also, I'm still a TBR lover. I'm basic and I love watching people's TBRs.
Yeah.
Ones that I wished were done with. Oh God, that's hard. I need to think now. I don't watch. I'm pretty good at like just not watching videos I'm not interested in because, as you said, there's just so many
There's
of them.
so
So I
many.
prioritize the videos I like.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the biggest wrap up fan anymore, mostly because I watch people's vlogs, and so like I've
Right.
already seen most of them. And also this, I have another hot take. Collab
Awesome.
videos.
Really?
Just because I've noticed with so many of them, we're getting the same, like people say the same answer again and again. Like, so it's the same answer. So like, Dominish Books, he did one where he asked us all different questions that I really liked.
Yeah.
But I
That
get
was a fun
bored
one.
when I'm halfway through a collab video and I've seen a book 20 times, which like is no fault. Like, who thinks that everyone's gonna say this book? Because like I'm often going there for like new recommendations or something.
Yeah, I kind of ran into that. Well, I try really hard to be cognizant of that when I'm recommending books and trying to like, okay, I know you guys have seen me hold up Never Die by Rob J. Hayes 150 times. So let me pick something else for today just to give you guys a break.
Yeah, that is also part of like, you just have to, it's a stress to read more so you can recommend more and everything. Like,
yeah, well, there's so many, like, you know, I see people doing top 10s of things and I'm like, I feel like there's so many categories I wouldn't have 10 books in. You know, like I'm notorious for hating almost all romances and books because I just think they're cheesy and not well done. And that's just me. I don't even know if I could do like a fantasy books I love that have what I think are like well done romances in them. I don't know if I could do it.
I did
at some
it
point.
was hard. It was really hard.
Really? I'm gonna go watch
really
it.
Hard.
I'm really curious.
Day, and I was like, I was like, this is a great idea. And then I started putting my list, and I was like, I hated the romance in this, and in this, and in this.
It would be easier for me to be like, here are the top 10 fantasy books that I absolutely despise the romances
so easily.
Trying not to be negative as much as possible, but it's hard sometimes.
Yeah. Anyone who watches my channel knows I hate a lot of books.
How do you, I feel like there's a lot of chatting around booktube right now about like booktubers trying to stay really positive about things and really like how that's something that I'm kind of finding a balance with, because I feel like it's dishonest to pretend I like everything I read, which I don't. So I've started talking about my DNFs and my wrap ups because I think that's important. Just be like, this didn't work for me. But do you find a lot of pushback with that or not really?
No, like people joke about me hating books all the time. Like people in this chat will probably, I think Mel just replied, you do hate a lot of books. I feel like people come to my channel for my opinion. And just because I didn't like a book doesn't mean that you're not going to. And I am very strong supporter of the 1 and 2 stars. And I know a lot of people aren't, but I just like, if you don't give books 1 and 2 stars, your 3 stars are just 1 stars. Like, and that's just my personal opinion, that your rating scale is now 3, 4, 5, not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I just people know that I hate books and I rant about them sometimes, and I always try to like put a disclaimer in there, like, this is my opinion. Like, you can agree with me, not agree with me. You don't have to think the way I think. Like, I'm not saying this book is objectively bad. Reading is not objective. It never will be. But
nope.
I just, if
that's
you're
why
on my channel, it's my opinion.
It always makes me laugh when people say like, try to give more objective reviews. I'm like, there's only a certain sliver of true objectivity that we can reach as reviewers, because it's such a personal experience and it's such a subjective experience. Like, it's not possible to give a purely objective review. You can't.
Yeah, it was something I really learned doing like Spiffbow Cassidy's version this year, because I had a rubric for everyone to try and make it a little bit more objective. Like, we knew it wouldn't be objective, but just to like, so that we were all on the same page. And the numbers were crazy. Like, how different it, like, you can see how this what you like really, even like when you're looking at writing style, like, we could not agree ever. So yeah, it's really just a subjective thing forever.
It really is. I am laughing because we're getting called out a little bit in the comments. Of course, it's Chiago too. Color me shocked.
I'm gonna unhaul your book now.
It's so true, Maria. Like, especially when you know as many people in the community, like actually have gotten to know people and are friends with a bunch of people, and you're trying, because I want to watch everyone's content. Mm-hmm. Like, it's definitely not that. So
yeah. I have not. I don't have a good relationship with broken binding picks, so I will not be trying this since they picked it. I'm still on the wait list though. They've done 3 of their series picks have been my least favorite reads I've ever read. So,
which are we're here for all, you don't have to, but we're here for all the tea.
Yeah, I hated the Bone Ships, hated Lycanius, and I hated the Goblin Emperor. So
okay, which is fair. I have not read any of those.
I hope you love them. I always hope people love the books I hate. Like, please pick them up and love them and tell me why I'm wrong.
That's the thing that always gets me when people, like, I think it's hilarious. I give something 3 stars and people come unglued and they're like, oh my gosh, she hated it. And I'm like, dude, literally, if you go on Goodreads and you hover over the star, it says liked it. It's not a bad rating. Like,
the number one thing I get when I give a book 3 stars and people are like, you hated this book. And I was like, I liked it. Like,
if I hated it, I would give it 1 star.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or just not give it a rating and say in my review, like, this was so bad, I couldn't even give it 1 star. I've never done that before, but there are a couple books I would think of to do that. So
I have
you really?
Book a rating. It's a horror book, so Nothing But Blackened Teeth. And it was just like an hour-long book, so I finished it. And I was like, I don't think it's fair for me to give this book a rating. I think I stopped listening even because I hated it so much. So
yeah, and I think that's where, like, I think booktubers really should not be afraid to be honest with their opinions, because it's like, people are coming for recommendations. Like, people come and watch your channel and they're like, okay, either, oh, Cassidy really loved this book and my tastes overlap with Cassidy, so I'm going to go read this because she thought it was great. Or I know that sometimes Cassidy really hates books that I tend to like. So if you didn't like a book, it's personally, I'm going to go buy it right now. So, like,
always so important to say why you disliked it too. So then, like, if I like Lycanius, I hate time travel. So, like, if you like time travel, pick it up. Like, that's literally the reason I hated it. Like, I hate time travel, but so many people, that's a trigger word for, like, they're like, yes, give it to me.
Give it to me immediately. Yep.
So I always like say why you dislike books, and it's just as good as a good review.
Yeah, I totally agree with this too. Like, I tend to follow a lot of booktubers, but the ones that I take recommendations from are the ones that I see do both. The people that I know what they like and what they don't like, because that helps me get a better gauge on, am I going to like this book, or is it going to be, not for me? We've got the Cassidy squad in the chat here. That's the other thing. I think a lot of people feel pressured sometimes to go along with the hype on series. And I don't know about you, but I've definitely read some series that were super hyped, and either the whole series or some of the things that were hyped, I was like,
the same all the time. All the time. The more liked, probably the least likely to like it.
Chiago, there's just no.
You turn the people against yourself.
Cassidy knows what's up.
I'm so mad at you for picking Mel's team and not mine.
I'm just gonna, if you guys need to have a conversation here, that's totally fine.
We need to battle it out.
Yeah, this for me too, Mel, like the 3-star reads, it's something that, like, I'll even give a book 4 stars if I'm like, this really wasn't my thing, but it was really well written. Like, I can somewhat objectively say, like, I can tell that this is a really good book. Maybe it just had like a really heavy-handed chosen one trope, which is not my thing. Like, love triangles and chosen one tropes and insta love. Those are like the no-goes for me, pretty much. you know, I can Red's Book of the Ancestor would be an amazing broken binding set.
This is why I'm on the sub list still. Like I'm hoping, and I liked the Wind Wing Flame trilogy that they did. So
it was
I
beautiful.
just sit on this waiting list. Also, the Bone Chips were the prettiest editions I've ever seen, and I was so angry because I got like an invite to like join at that time, and I was like, do I do it? I hate the series. Like I hate it with a passion. But like they're so pretty.
They're
like,
so pretty
every day and deal with it.
So do you? I've recently done some unhauling. When you don't like a series, but it's a really beautiful like hardcover, do you keep it or do you get rid of it?
I actually am a paperback fan, if you can tell from back here. These are the only hardcovers I own in this shelf. So I don't own a lot. And one is the Poppy War. There is the Prince of Thorns Broken Binding edition. The Trigger Happy that I got for the Ember Blade because they're pretty and I'm never going to read it because I think I'm going to hate it. And then Fourth Wing. And then I also have Lord of the Rings up there, which another unpopular opinion I don't like, but I can't get rid of. So I keep my pretty hardcovers most of the time, but since I like paperbacks, they tend to
helps
go bye-bye. But I love a floppy paperback. Give me a floppy paperback over a hardcover any day.
Mm-hmm. Matt subscribed to your channel because he needs more epic rants about books in his life. Don't we all?
Yeah.
I mean, let's be real. Alan's channel, like I love a good Alan rant about books so much, and it's so refreshing because I feel like not enough people let that out.
And Alan rant about anything. Like you click onto like sprints and he's just ranting. And I'm just like, I'm just gonna sit here with my drink and my popcorn.
Yep. And I think I talk about this a lot, but I think there's definitely a solid line between ranting out about a book you didn't like and why, and giving like reasons as to why you didn't like it versus trashing the author. Like those are not the same thing. Yeah. And I think there are people that definitely take a very big step too far in that direction, and they're just doing it for kind of the rant review views. Mm-hmm. But that's not the same thing. So
thankfully, like also because of my style of channel, I don't do a lot of like single book reviews. So I've never really had to worry about having a rant review book review. Like if you watch my wrap ups, I will rant. If you watch my vlogs, I'll rant. But like if you click on an individual video, it's never just one full rant because I don't really do individual book reviews because they're not something I really watch, which is interesting because you come on booktube to review books. But because I don't know, I don't watch them sometimes until after. I'll watch them after I've read a book, but never before.
Yeah. Well, I think honestly, it seems like a lot of people are kind of moving away from the individual book reviews, watching wise and creating wise, and kind of going more to the vlogs or the, doing it in different formats. And it seems like, which I feel sad about just because I do love a good book review, but I get it. Kind of.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Vlogs take a lot more effort to film, which is kind of the sad part about them because it's like days of just like taking your camera around with you. And if you're like me and you never want to get ready and I have to sit there and be like, do I look horrible on camera because I haven't brushed my hair all day, or do I get ready? Like, am I real? And I'm like, this is my messy hair, or I'm like, I'm going to go pretend that I got ready this morning.
Right. Yeah. But here's my, let me tell you about this book. Well, I have and I have curly hair, and let me tell you what, bad hair days are so it's like, I mean, I'm pretty open book. Like I don't have a problem with people seeing me without makeup on or anything like that. But there's a level of presentation that, makes me feel more comfortable.
Is one clip on my channel that is like the most regretted clip in the world. It's when I read Malice and I stayed up to like 4 a.m. reading Malice, and the vlog clip, like I filmed myself finishing the book and then I sat up and my hair is just a mess. And I'm like, why did I put that in?
You realize that now me and everyone in the chat is going to go watch it after this.
Yeah.
Now that you said that.
It's deep. It's a booktube bestie video from last year. So it's deep on my channel now.
I'm trying to make sure everybody's got a lot to say in the comments, and I'm trying to keep up here. What about Wuthering Heights, Evie? What about it? We know that we have different opinions on this. Evie, one of Evie's favorite books is Wuthering Heights. I have read it now this year. It was not my favorite, personally, but I love that Evie loves it so much.
Yeah, maybe I'll do you a favor and I won't read it.
But we do both love Frankenstein, so like, you know, you
I
gotta.
haven't read that one yet either. I mean,
Ugh.
classics, they're scary.
See,
Scary,
what the
scary
beautiful
world.
part about Frankenstein, though, is like it's a classic, but it's also like
It's short.
teeny. And just it's so good. The Broken Binding, what is it? The Tide Child trilogy?
Oh, yeah.
Is that what it's called? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. When those came out, I had this moment where I saw it for the first time on Twitter and I ran out of my room and I showed my husband and I was like, when and if I ever do special editions for my trilogy, we're starting here. And something like, it's just, it's so beautiful.
So stunning.
Mel says just put the edges out and you won't have to know what it is.
That's what they're doing right now.
Is that the Emberblade duology?
Which I don't like classic fantasy or quest stories.
Okay.
So I'm gonna hate it. So I just got really trigger happy when they came out and I said, these look really pretty. Add to cart.
They do. So do you ever like think I'm gonna hate this series and then are you ever surprised?
Yes. I need to think about this now.
Casey says it's beautiful prose but poorly paced overall. Solid 3 stars though.
Yeah, I think Mel gave it a 3 stars and we're pretty close in opinions on books. So one day I will read it. Like I will read it because I own the paperback of it too. But what's a series I thought I was going to hate? I feel like there has to be one. I don't keep a lot of read books. That's my problem. I'm such a weirdo and I like my bookshelves to be full of not read books and I get rid of. But I used to only have one bookshelf, so I think it comes from that. Like I used to have to unhaul a lot to make room for new books where I now have more space.
Your friends are helping you in the comments.
Oh, Fireborn was a surprise because it's YA and has a romance and I was like, I'm going to hate this. And then I gave all of them 5 stars.
That sounds like something I would also not enjoy.
Yeah, it's done really well though.
Okay. I mean, that's the thing. It's like whatever. I don't care if something is like a YA romance or an epic quest fantasy, as long as you do it really well. Don't do it not. Anyways, I could rant. YA fantasy is a trigger topic for me because I can go on for days.
Yeah, me too. Because I feel like I always say I don't read YA anymore and people get very personally offended that I think that it just sucks. And it's not that I think it all sucks.
There are some gems. There are some really good gems in there for sure.
Ashes of the Sun was probably a surprise. I don't think I thought I wouldn't like it, but I did like it more. The Burning Blade and Silver Eye trilogy by Django Wexler.
Okay. Yep. I know, Thiago, you just recently read that, right?
I did.
Yeah.
Actually, also Along the Razor's Edge.
Oh, really?
Series. I did not expect to love that at all. Just from thoughts on that people have had of previous books of his. I think he has like different writing styles quite well. So yeah,
he definitely has written a lot of very different series, which is cool.
Evie.
Thank you, Evie. Okay, I think that is my first super chat ever.
Oh!
So thank you, Evie. And you know what? I am very jealous that you smell like the barn because that means that you were in a barn with horses and I'm jealous, but I'm glad you had that experience today. Thank you. Let's see. Matt. Dude, I'm just getting old and grumpy. You know what, though?
There's a romance.
Fair. It's fair.
Yeah, like, I don't blame you at all. There's a YA romance in that book.
Like, YA romance.
There's a question for me. Yes. Do I reread? I have never reread a book, but I'm doing some shameless plugging on your channel. Sorry.
No, go for it.
Club is actually reading Book the Ancestor. And so that'll be my first book as an adult that I've reread, because I'm rereading
Ever?
the entire series. Yes, except for like I've read Fablehaven a couple times, but as an adult I reread Fablehaven because I loved it when I was younger.
So,
It's like
but
a middle grade. But I've never reread a book. I'm terrified of it.
why?
Well, one, because like, what if my tastes change all the time? So like, what if I hate it after? And then two, just because like it's the booktube pressure. Like I don't have time to reread books. I barely have time to read all the books on my TBR. So
fair.
I'm not a rereader. But
I mean, to me, it's more like sometimes I just need a comfort read. And people always laugh because my comfort reads are like Red Rising and White Fang and like Dead House Gates, which is kind of a weird list of comfort reads. But I've been putting off my reread of Gardens of the Moon for like 6 months now because I've been reading all the other things. So I get it.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just so scared of hating them the second time around. So there's not a lot that I own still. I'm better now because like I do have a lot more shelf space, but
yeah. I haven't read Along the Razor's Edge, but from what I know of it, and I'm hoping to get to it soon, which is the line that we all say constantly, that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I love Eska.
I'm excited. I can't wait to read it.
Yeah. Book 3 is my favorite of the entire series.
Okay.
I bawled.
Have you read all 5?
Yeah, I read all 5. I binged it this year, actually. Why is my phone going on? Yeah.
I mean, it depends on the book. They have to be like major favorites for me to reread. Like I've read Red Rising. I've reread Red Rising like 3 or 4 times. Just because it's a fast read, and sometimes I just need like, to be honest, I need a Severo fix. Let's be real.
Love that for real.
Right.
Yeah.
There
are some books that sit on my shelf that I say one day I will probably reread, but I say that and then never do. Like I started the Wheel of Time books. I'm in like a read along, and I said I was going to reread book 1 because it had been a year and I had to continue. And I said it for day after day after day, I'm going to start my reread of it. But then every day a new book came that I was like, I'm going to read you instead because I've already read you.
Right.
So
have you read the whole Wheel of Time series?
No, I'm on the 3rd book currently, and it's another unpopular opinion because I don't like them.
Well, you're farther than I am because I have basically said that I don't think I will probably ever read Wheel of Time. Not because, and I have so many friends that love it, but it's just one of those series where I know myself well enough at this point to say, this is not a series that I'm going to jive with. I DNF'd Eye of the World 3 times.
Yeah.
Like
on Wheel of Time are that I understand why it's great, why so many people love it, but and I get that it was like one of a kind when it came out, but now I want more than what this book is giving you because it's been done so many times. If I started with Wheel of Time, probably would have loved it, but now it's like going back to it. It's like, okay, we need more to happen than just what's happening in this because I've seen it before.
Yeah, there's a lot of
fault. It's
right.
That started something incredible.
Yeah.
Oh,
there's a lot of traveling in that one. You're good.
Okay, cool.
You just froze for a second, but I could still hear
internet likes to be stupid.
Mine too. I was doing the interview with Mark Lawrence and Chiago, and my internet kicked me out of the live stream. That was super fun. So, yay, technology.
Yeah, it's done that to me before too.
The worst one, I think, was that. I think that was so I got a chance to talk to Steven Erickson earlier this year, which was like the highlight of my booktube and reading in life. But there was a thunderstorm going on. And so I think it's that one where I'm freezing like every 15 to 20 seconds on the video. And I'm like, as long as they can, it's fine. It's fine. Also, I feel like this is kind of a favorite character mood. Like, how many of our favorite characters are we just like, are you an idiot?
I want to think that a character is an idiot, but understand why they're doing it. That's key for me. If I can understand why you made those choices, but think that they're stupid choices, that's like perfect character.
Lantern wants to know. No, you're fine. The only reason you've pushed yourself to retry something like Wheel of Time is because of the hype around it, or what is another reason you've pushed yourself to read something?
A lot of the time with like more like classic fantasy, I just want to be able to like see comparisons and like when people compare it to things or do stuff like that. So like I do like to try that. Like that's why I read Lord of the Rings too, because even though I knew I wasn't gonna like it, I just like I wanted to see the staples and where things were created. But
yeah. I want to touch on indie a little bit because that's something that you and I share very much in common. And I love when I come across another booktuber that's like really passionate about indie fantasy. And how did you get into indie fantasy in the first place? Like, what was your kind of gateway into that, and why have you continued to read it?
Technically I think it was Rage of Dragons, but I read it when it was traditionally published. But like knowing that it was self-pubbed before was a big deal for me, and being like, wow, this is good. Like because like obviously you think that people like your first instinct is that they're self-pubbing because they're not good and can't be personally published. But when you actually learn the ins and outs, it's not it at all. But I feel like that's like the first initial instinct for most people. And I read that, and I remember having a friend who loved that series and pushed it on her channel quite a bit. And I just thought, like, what if you could make someone have that if they wanted it? Like, what if I could talk about a book so much that it became like more loved, something like that, which like we do with traditional publishing too. And then an indie author reached out to me and sent me her book. It was Kingdom of Essence by Holly Carlson. She was in Spiffbow. I didn't love that story. I recommend it a lot. It's more YA, so that's why I didn't love it. But always YA readers, I'm always like, please read it. But I remember being like, thank you so much for sending this to me. Like, I had like 200 subs, and I was like, why are you sending me this book? And then since then, I had opened up. After that, I think I just tweeted out that I was like, I'm open to receiving books. Like, if you're looking for yours, like,
gotta be really careful with that.
I'm open. And I got sent a couple. Some I liked, some I didn't like. And then it just kind of went from there. And I learned about Spiffbow and all of these things. And I just was like, well, no one talks about these. And I get so sick of people talking about the same books on the internet. Like, I understand it. I love the hype. But at some point, like, I love the Poppy War. I barely recommend it on my channel anymore because I'm like, nobody needs this recommendation anymore.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I throw it out there. But so I just started reading them. I don't know. That's it. Like, I just was like, well, I'm going to do this now. And then I found some I really liked. So I keep doing it.
So do you see from a reviewer side of things, do you see differences between trad and indie? What do you think indie kind of brings to the table in the fantasy genre?
I think indies can go a lot darker, which I like. They can explore things that traditional fantasy can't. I also read a lot, like I'd obviously known about indie romance before then, because indie romance has been so big for so long. And I like that they can go darker and talk about themes and things that like traditionally publishing can't. I think that they're ahead of a lot of trends, which is kind of cool. My only complaint is writing. There's a lot of writing that I wish could just get like a little bit more editing, but like you're putting your own money into it. So it's like understandable that you don't have, I think that although traditional publishing, you have a whole team that are experts. And so I think that does help out quite a bit for things like writing and stuff. Like you have experts looking at your book. Like that's what they do for a living versus indie where like you have to put the money out there if you want to get the experts to look at it. And that can be hard. But yeah, I don't know. I think that there's some cooler ideas in indie that like, because they're not just what's selling currently. Like they're not just picking up what they think is going to sell. Sometimes it's like, this is just a brainchild and it's an awesome brainchild.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and as we've seen too, there's been a lot of crossover between, indies who've done really well and gotten picked up by publishers, and there are indies who have chosen to stay indie that have done incredibly well for themselves. And I think it's been really interesting to watch the Kickstarters lately, because indie Kickstarters are just killing it lately, which has been really fun to watch, to see how many people are so excited about a lot of the indie fantasy. So that's been great.
Indie fantasy is going to have its time. Like, I feel like indie romance had its time, and like people started really reading it and loving it, and knowing like when you pick up a KU romance, you know that like this could be crap or this could be the best book I've ever read. Like, there's no it's the same for traditionally published too. Like, most of my least favorite books in the world are traditionally published, so like completely the same, but it's just like you're aware of it more, I feel like, when you pick up a Kindle book. And I think indie fantasy is going to have that moment of people being like, I just want to read all of these things because they're cool.
Right. Well, and I think too, like it helps when we can bring indie fantasy into the booktube sphere. And why booktubers, I think, are so important for the indie community is just that those reviews are putting them out on a new platform, and they're getting more eyes on the books. And it's kind of the same. It's kind of like having a marketing team. You're just not, it's not just specific to, but the traditional marketing teams handle a bunch of different books too anyways. So I feel like it's just kind of, Yeah.
I know like a lot of people who follow me had no idea what Spiffbow was or anything either. And like I didn't know about it until Rachel, who's Argent Rabe in the comments, told me about it. And then started following it then, and now look at me, I'm obsessed.
Well, and that's also something that I need to briefly mention is that for anyone who doesn't know, Cassidy is going to be a Spiffbow 9 judge, which is amazing. Congratulations.
Just be prepared for all my unpopular opinions.
No, but I think that's so good though, because I think it's so important to have a variety of people in the judging panels, because that's, we want to have that spectrum of opinions, and we want to have people that come into it liking different things, because if everybody only likes one subgenre or, a certain type of story, then we're going to get the same winner every year.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to have that variety in judging. And there's been some really exciting judging kind of shifts around this year with Philip and John Morrow joining. There's just, it's going to be I'm really excited to just watch and have a great time. It's going to be fun.
I'm very nervous for no reason. I don't understand how authors do it, because I am, I don't want to swear, but like pooping my pants on this side. So like, how am I an author? Because I'm very nervous. So
I feel like it's a lot of responsibility. We're on the one side kind of like, I hope it gets, I hope that it starts in the right blog, and I hope they like it, and I hope, and then you got to wait and stuff. But I think on the opposite side, that responsibility of, really giving each book the best shot that you can. And, you're sending books to semifinals and finals, and that's I get it. Like, I think it's amazing, and I think you're going to be really, really good at it. So I'm excited for you.
Yeah.
You literally ran your own Spiffbow last year, so I feel like you're prepared.
And everyone joining me on my team was a part of that, so I also know that they know what to expect, because I made them do it already. I know last year I was in a lot of like Discord chats, and was really like vocal with people and like talking about things. And I'm like, this year I feel like I need to not enter any of those. I need to leave them all, because like a lot of it is just like, we complain as people. Like, we literally complain as people. So it's like, oh, I don't see how this book went, blah, blah, blah. And like, I know I do it too. Or like, I was like, I don't understand how this got this score, blah, blah, blah. I feel like I just need to step away from those probably this year to not see them, because
just kind of have your own and having, as a judge, I'm sure it's tough being as tight knit of a community as it is to just have your own experience with the competition and the books. So That's one of the things I even find difficult as a reviewer is like it took a little bit for me to kind of find the balance of, yeah, I'm reviewing books and I'm being honest, but a lot of the people that I review for now are friends and people that I know, and that adds a whole different layer of, I'm still going to be honest with my review, but I also like, it has definitely made me, I think, a more intentional and thoughtful reviewer, because I know even if I'm reviewing something that with somebody I don't know, they may read it. Yeah. So I want to make sure that I'm giving my reasons and I'm being more thoughtful and intentional about what I'm saying about the book.
Yeah. I distance myself from authors for this reason most of the time. Obviously, there's exceptions. I know you, Gianno. I've talked to Andrew quite a bit.
Yeah.
But there is that always where, like, not that I would, but I don't want anyone to think that, like, my reviews are different because I was friends with that person or have talked to them.
Yeah. Well, and I think like it's just finding that balance of, and why I think it's so important, like we talked about earlier, to your reviews being honest regardless, because I've DNF'd books by friends, and it's just, you know, if a book isn't for you, it isn't for you, and that's nothing against the author. It's just subjective experience.
And like sometimes it's timing. I've learned that quite a bit. Where like I'm like, if I had read this book a year earlier, I probably would have loved it, or a year later. But didn't work for me at that time.
Yeah, I didn't realize how much of a impact that would have on just the time I read things. And I'm getting more careful now, where if I know I'm not in the headspace for something, like that's why I don't do reviews for people on a deadline anymore. Because I'm like, I can't, because if I get to your book and I'm not in the mood for it and I just force myself through it, you're going to not want that review anyways. Like, it's in your best interest to just, like, if you want me to review it, just take the deadline off, because otherwise I won't touch it.
Yeah, I actually don't anymore guarantee reviews even.
Nice.
And I've never had a problem. I have a decent sized following. So most of the time when someone reaches out for a review, I'll show it off on my channel. I will haul it. It'll be in a video somewhere. When I get to it, if I get to it, there will be a review on my channel, Goodreads. But I make no promises for timing. I don't even technically make a promise for like it's going to be read anymore. Because if it sits on my shelf for 3 years, I don't. It sometimes does, and
which some authors get really bent out of shape about that, I feel like, and not many. I mean, I'm not saying that that's most authors in the community I've found to be incredibly generous and patient, and just, you know, they totally are really gracious about it. But every once in a while, you see comments about that, and it's like, well, here's my thing. If I send Phased to someone and they don't read it for 2 years, but then they happen to pick it up one day and they love it and they start blasting it all over the internet, I'm not offended. Like, I'm not mad. So it kind of, you want some momentum where not every single person is reviewing your book all at the same time. You want it to be, you know, spread out a little bit, from my perspective.
Yeah. I was gonna say something and I forget now.
Sorry.
No, it clicked to me while you were talking. It was like a response to something, and now I forget.
Reviewers.
It was just that, like, and honestly, people take recommendations from me that I've never read. Like my haul videos, people always are like, I'm gonna go buy this book, or like, I get a lot of comments to be like, do you want to buddy read this then? And so then they went and bought the book. So like, just not even me reviewing things anymore, because just like saying what it's about sometimes, like that's a thing, especially with indie, for example, where they've never heard of this book before. So when I showcase an indie book, people are like, that's good, and a lot of them are available on KU, so people are like, I'm gonna go get them on KU because it's free anyways. Well, free. They pay for KU. I always call it free, but it's not actually free. I pay for it. Right. And yeah, so
what's you like paperbacks, but what is your preferred format? Because it sounds like you read audio, ebook, physical copy. What's your preference?
I read all of them, and honestly, I don't know the last book that I've read only in one format.
Okay. Especially, do you do immersion?
Yeah, audiobook is probably my favorite way, but I almost always do audiobook. At some point I'm probably reading physically while I'm listening to the audiobook, and then if it's on KU, if I have the ebook when I'm going to bed, I will pick it up on my phone or something, or read in the car, or do whatever, like or if I'm like, I got my tires changed the other day, so I read a book on my phone. Like,
nice.
So I am definitely all. I don't really know if I have a preferred one, but probably audio if I had to choose.
Okay.
I love an audiobook. Well, I listen to them a lot while I work too, so.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm learning. So what are your audiobook tips? Because I'm a notorious non-audiobooker because I have a really hard time not getting distracted and then realizing I missed like 5 minutes of the book while my brain went somewhere else.
I probably don't have good tips because I am a skim reader when I don't like things. I skim those battle scenes we don't like when they're really long. So if I zone out, I don't go back most of the time, and I just hope it makes sense.
Keep going.
But if you struggle, I always say, like, especially with fantasy, first 100 pages physically or like with the audiobook while doing it is always good. And then you get like to understand what the narrator sometimes, when their voices shift because they're smart and they do these things, and sometimes they lead us up to knowing that something big is about to happen with their voices and all of this. Definitely just like starting physical, I think, with a fantasy is pretty good.
Yeah.
Also, when I started audiobooks, I read all fantasy physical still, and I read like thrillers and horrors and romances and everything too. So I did a lot more audio for those, which aren't as big brained, I like to call them.
Yeah.
And then I slowly moved to fantasy, and now I'm one of those psychopaths on 3 times speed.
I put my audiobook on 1.2 the other day because I was like, okay, let's speed it up a little bit.
Honestly, that's another advice I think people are scared of. I cannot listen to an audiobook on 1 time speed because I zone out, because it's just a little too slow. Sometimes you have to find that perfect speed where like you stop zoning out. Sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's slower. But
I'm sure it depends on the narrator too.
Yes.
For sure. Yeah, because I'm at 1.2. We're getting there. And I'm liking it so far, but yeah, it's definitely, it's easier because it's more the flow of conversation. It's not necessarily.
Are the comments showing up for you?
No, they're not.
I just looked over to my screen and we have a lot of comments. I was like, why is no one talking in the comments?
That's what I was wondering too. Hold on, guys. I don't know. Yeah, it's not updating for me. I was wondering why nobody had said anything for a while.
I was like, because I have it over here. And
can they still? Are we still live?
Yeah, like they're still talking to us.
You guys, hold on. I don't have my phone, so let me go over to YouTube. We're all professionals here. Hold on.
I was like, there's still 42 people watching us. Why?
Yeah.
Why is no one talking? And then ghost comments.
I'm gonna try. Thank you guys for being patient. I wasn't ignoring you. Oh my goodness.
Someone said they got a server error a while ago. Don't know if that makes a difference.
I mean, I have never had StreamYard just stop giving me.
StreamYard is StreamYard.
Honestly. Okay. So I can't put them on the screen, but I will catch up with some of the questions. Lantern Valley wanted to know, similar to that, have you or would you push yourself to read an indie more than a classic because of that, taking a chance and helping unknown authors more?
Yes. I typically do. I mean, I don't really like classics, so
it's an easy. I feel like that too, though, because there is something like I've been in the first like 2 or 3 reviews of a book before, and there's just something really special about that because you know that you're seeing like the wheels start turning, which is cool.
Keep screaming from the rooftop so Nomads of the Sea, and no one keeps reading it, and I'm sitting here and I'm just like, why is there still so little reviews? Because I was so early on in reading it.
So I have it right here. I am so excited to read this book. I was honestly planning on buying it this summer. And Kay from Kay's Hidden Shelf is also a massive fan of this book. And she got tired of waiting for me to read it. So she sent it to me recently. I am really excited to read this because from what Kay told me, I think it's going to check a lot of boxes for me as a reader, which like, so you mentioned, I have to ask really quick before I go back to the comments. You mentioned skipping battle scenes. Like I skip to the battle scenes. I don't, but like that's my, usually if it's well done, my favorite part.
Anything that just like repeats a lot. I'll just skip. You know, like if I'm reading a romance, if there's a lot of smut, I start to skip smut. If I'm reading a really heavy battle scene book, eventually, like I'm like, I can only read you stabbing a man so many times before like I just like I'm still reading, I guess, but I'm not like paying as much attention and trying to figure out if anyone died or anything. Anything important happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think of battle scenes the way I think of smut. And if there's too many of them, I don't like them.
That's fair. I feel like it really, to me, it really depends on the writing too, because that's usually my favorite part of books. It's not my only favorite part of books, but one of my favorite parts of books. I'm more critical of fight scenes, and so I get like, oh my gosh, there are sometimes where I'm reading battle scenes and I'm like, this is so awkward and stilted and it's not good. It's just not good. Yeah. So Mitch wanted to know, and maybe you can help us out. Do you read every book to be a judge? How is such a thing possible? So can you explain just briefly for people, we should probably tell people in the comments what Spiffbow is, because we've been talking about it this whole time. Spiffbow, for anybody that doesn't know and is very confused, it is the self-published fantasy blog off that was founded by Mark Lawrence, and it is on its 9th year this year. And there are like different judges. There's usually different blogs, and now we're starting to get some booktubers in there like Cassidy and Philip Chase. So Cassidy, as a judge, how does that work? How does it start, and how do the brackets kind of progress?
Oh gosh, you're asking me?
You did it last year.
Like, yes. Well, the first phase is 300 books that are separated into just randomly 30 books, and each blog gets 30 books. And then you slowly in that phase get down to your semi-finalist pick for your blog, and then each blog picks their semi-finalist pick. Each blog picks their finalist pick, which is one book. And then we all have to read all of the finals and review them and give them a score. Well, I guess we technically don't have to review them. We have to give them a score. Last year when I did my own version, we had like a rating system. I'm bringing that back for like my own blog, but every blog does them differently.
Yeah.
And for me it is different. Like I definitely, when reviewing for Spiffbow Cassidy's version, I thought of it as more objective. Like obviously it's still more subjective, but I tried to be not as like, this plot didn't work for me, more like, was this plot what the author intended? Because I was rating for more than just my own enjoyment, and more than just like, you're here for my opinion. I felt a little bit more like trying to get the best book versus, I mean, it's still subjective. It's always still subjective. But yeah, that's how I did it. But I there's no rulings. Like each blog can pick, they could just be like, I liked this book and I didn't like this book. Like that's fine. It's just about trying to get more indies out there and loving them.
So when you're given, your group is given your 30 books that are assigned to you guys, like how are you breaking that down as a judge?
Some, like, we all have like different size teams and anything. Like some people are doing it themselves. I will have 6 people underneath me for phase 1, and they are all reading 5 books, and we have like a spreadsheet. Obviously we haven't gotten our books yet because it opens on the 17th.
Yes.
And on the spreadsheet they are going to put like their favorites, like the ones they're most interested in from our 30 books, and also like anything that they're like hard nosed, because like obviously if you don't like romance, you don't want to, like, it's not going to work with you, versus it could go to someone who likes the romance in their fantasy books. And then I, as the because I'm not doing anything in phase 1 technically. I'm just superior and watching all do things.
You're the overseer.
Sorting them, trying to give everyone a book that they're excited about. Like I was like, I'm not guaranteeing you'll get all the books that you're excited about, but I want to make sure you at least have like a book that you're like really excited about. But each person does it differently. It's actually one of the first questions I asked the other judges, like, how do you do this? Help me run this smoothly. This is kind of the advice I got, just to make sure people are reading things that they're interested in, and things that they're not interested in go to other people. I'm not very worried about it because anyone underneath me is we're very eclectic. We read a lot of different things, but
which is kind of awesome when you're putting together a judges panel, I would think, because then I'm assuming like there's a wider pool of books that are really going to get, you know, their fair shot, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a long process. I mean, I don't envy you guys with just the amount of books that you have to get through and, you know, figure out how to rank them and rate them. And there's a lot that goes into that. So the judges put a lot of time and effort into.
Yeah, I haven't officially announced anywhere how I'm doing it, but they'll all be reading 5 books in June and July. And then in August, they're all swapping their 2 favorites from those 5 books.
Nice.
So that more than one person will be reading them. And then I will be reading the like top 5, because we're using a rubric and we're scoring books. So I'll just have like the ones that have the best scores I'll be reading. And then I'll pick my finalist from there. And then phase 2 just happens all on my channel. Like I'm doing it myself. But
nice.
Shout out to the people that are doing phase 1 and have to do the hard work for me.
Also, you heard it here first, folks.
Yeah. I get all the credit, but I think they're doing the hard work.
That first round, that first phase that's got to be a lot of work.
Yeah.
Let me see. I'm trying to catch up with questions. Lots of comments about speeds for audiobooks.
Oh. Chiago is calling me old. How rude.
That's ironic. Chiago's great. We love Chiago.
He says he's calling me a genius, but I think he called me old.
I mean, oh, Chiago, yes. Thank you for... See, this is why I'm horrible at promoting myself, because people in my comments have to remind me to promote things on my own channel.
Like your book that's sitting right behind.
Yeah, that's my book.
It's up there. Otherwise, I would grab it. It's up on the top shelf where these are my indie shelves. So
nice. Mine are right behind me, and I have Mortal Techniques behind me. But yeah, so we were talking about fight scenes, and yes, I do, Chiago, thank you, run a show called Imposter Syndrome, and we had a great chat about it's like an informal writer's room every month that we sit down. I sit down with 2 or 3 other authors, and we talk about a specific topic in writing fantasy. And this last, 2 of them now ago, it was Rob Hayes, JCM Byrne, and Chiago and I sat down and talked about writing combat. And that was a great discussion. We had a great time. So if anybody's interested in watching that per our combat discussion. Good night, Michaela. She's probably long gone.
I literally read Carrie's comment saying, I read Eye of the World 3 times and gave it 5 stars each time, again and again and again. I felt like Carrie was just coming for me and my unpopular opinion.
You know, I feel like that's where my 3 DNFs of Eye of the World, Carrie was just balancing that out.
Exactly.
So it's all good. It all works.
Oh, will you be submitting Phase to Spiffbow 9?
Yes, I will.
I hope I get it. I actually hope I get no books of anyone I know at all. I don't want that in my hands. You, Andrew, I'm like, please, even though I'm interested in your books, please make it to the finalists, and then I can read it for that.
Well, I mean, you can read it either way at some point, but yeah, I mean, it's a little tricky, even as I was considering whether or not to judge this year, because that came up and I was like, okay, first of all, if I do this, I'm never finishing my book this year, which was, again, one of those I have to prioritize things. But I realized, like, at some point, for a lot of these authors, it's got to be, especially people that have been in it more than once, they know so many people in the community that it's really hard to like be put in a blog or with a judge that hasn't, you know, talked to you or knows you. I mean, like I have several friends in the judging panels now, and it's like, well, I mean, hopefully everything gets assigned in areas where, and I'm sure that's,
we get to like
kind of say
push and pull a little. I think like if we've already read a book,
sure.
if there's some kind of conflict of interest, I do know we do get a little bit of like, we can swap books before like it's formalized. Like that does happen behind the scenes.
Yeah. And that was something that I had heard too, that people can say, hey, like I know this person, so put their book somewhere else or whatever it is, which I think is a good.
I know like last year Bookborn had in her original 30, she had the person that her and Zach awarded the like indie.
Oh, sure.
And so she swapped that because she just was like, I feel like that's conflict of interest. Like, let's just swap it and call it a day. Like,
yeah.
So
that makes sense.
You know that happens.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Mike. Mike says Imposter Syndrome is his favorite series on BookTube. I appreciate that. Yvette says Cassidy is so old, man.
Yeah, really old over here.
Yeah, Palmer in the chat as well. I think Palmer, you are submitting Heliotrope, last I heard, to Spiffbow 9, which I'm reading. That's actually the audiobook I'm reading right now. And I won't say anything about it just in case you get it.
Mel just received a copy of it from the author. So thanks for sending it to Mel, who's on my team. Like she's helping me out. And we were all like, we hope we get it.
It's so good. Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people reading that. So I know Dom read it too, I believe.
Dom and Andrew Wizard recently, and Kay read it recently, and they all really liked it. So yeah, I'm excited. I was when the Twitter post went up, when people were asking about, oh, like who's jumping into Spiffbow 9, and I'm like scrolling through who's all going to be in it this year. I'm like, this is a big year. Like it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot that I'm excited about. So I'm hoping. And like last year when I like started following it, I knew like nothing. Like I knew nobody. I actually had Nomads of the Sea just because he was one of those authors that when I tweeted it the first time reached out to me. And so that's why I read that one. Actually, it was for one of my vlogs. And I was like, well, I already own it, so of course I'm going to read it.
Yeah.
And so this year I feel like I know more and I know more people and I know some of the books going into it. So this year I kind of am hoping for more things, where last year I mean, I wasn't a judge last year, but last year I was just like wide-eyed.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's why I'm excited to see what it's like from the author side of things, because this will be my first year in it. And I'm just excited. Like I don't have like strong expectations going into it. It's just one of those things where I'm excited to be part of the experience, because I kind of got to be a sideliner last year and watch. And yeah, it's like people get really invested, and it's when you see your friends in the finals, and like obviously seeing Thiago in the finals this year, which was awesome. Like you get really invested in it. And that's one of the cool parts about knowing everybody, or knowing a lot of the people in the community, is, you know, either way, people that you're friends with are going to be in the semifinals and the finals. And that's something that's pretty cool.
It'd be really hard. Like I know, like summoning a cozy fantasy, knowing like, because like before cozy fantasy wasn't like as big, now it's obviously big, but I feel like you would kind of sit there and be like, I hope that the right blog gets this. Because it really does. Like I think that's something I always like try to say, like it's really about who just the luck of your book getting someone that vibes with it, because like there's a lot of us in there's a lot of books in here, and so
I think it's like that with pretty much any style of book too, because there's going to be people that don't like the classic fantasy vibes, and some people that do, and there's going to be people that don't want to read, you know, supernatural, and some people that do. And like I feel like there's so many there's a lot of luck of the draw in the beginning, for sure. For sure. So what made you say yes to, or throw your name in the hat for the actual judging?
I saw it, and I was like, me, please.
I mean, I'm sure it helped that you did it last year on the side.
Yeah, obviously, like, Mark Lawrence knew who I was at that point because I had done it, and he had commented on some of my videos. I remember that I'm a big Mark Lawrence fan, so I fangirled so hard, especially, like, when I woke up to a Facebook message from Mark Lawrence to ask me if I wanted to be a Spiffbow judge. I was like, Mark Lawrence just DM'd me. And I was fangirling so hard. But you know what, I did it last year, and I think I've been pretty vocal about things that I like in the competition and things I don't like in the competition. And I figured, you know what, the only way that it like even can matter is if I like am in it. Like, I can make more of a change from the inside, which sounds, I'm not trying to change it. It's a great competition, but like maybe some things that I say or do can rub off and like just be a part of it. Honestly, it was fun. It's just fun. So I figured I would do it. I planned to follow along this year anyways. Like, we weren't doing a Cassidy's version again because I don't think anyone else really wanted to do it again with me. It's a lot of commitment, especially if you don't read a lot of indie, and the indie videos don't do as well unless you've built up that community. Right. As I know, like, some of my co-hosts, their vlogs and stuff didn't do as great, and it's hard to like tell you have to read 10 books, but your content's gonna flop on them. Right. So yeah, so I was already gonna read all the finalists and make vlogs on submissions. I was like, you know what, I may as well do it officially. Right. Might as well.
Yeah, if you're already there. So do you feel like your audience is kind of bent, not all towards indie, because obviously you read both, but do you feel like you have a pretty good indie audience for your channel?
Yeah, I started making vlogs on indie, I think January last year, maybe I did my first one. I read like Of Blood and Fire and Illborn and stuff. Sure. And definitely like since then, I can now read a lot more indie and know it's going to do okay because people know that I read indie, and people who want to learn about indie. Also, just because I talk about it all the time on my channel, and I was very like vocal on like Spiffbow and stuff. I made like in my Patreon Discord, we have like a Spiffbow part, and I'm always yelling about things in there. So I think just being vocal about it made people come back for it. And like, I know a lot of people learned about it for the first time last year. Right. A lot of people were like, I had no idea this even existed. So I definitely have grown an audience for it, but it definitely took time. And it's like, at first the content doesn't do good. Right. But if that's with anything, the first time I posted a reading vlog, that did not do well because people were like, who wants to watch you vlog?
A lot of people apparently now.
Now it's like my best videos, but I remember the first time I posted one, I was like, I'm never doing this again.
Yeah, the vlogs, I really enjoy the vlogs. I think I have to plan kind of which series I think are going to be vloggable for me as a reader, because it definitely, for me at least, changes the reading experience.
It does.
It really does, because you're reading and you can't just immerse. You can't fully immerse in a vlog book. You have to constantly be thinking, oh, that was a good bit to put in the vlog, or I should talk about that in the vlog now. So
we have a running joke over on my channel that book club books are cursed, because every time I've read a book for a book club, I've hated it. And I was like, it's because I have my book club eyes on the book. Like, because I'm constantly thinking, like, was this done well? Do I need to talk about this in the live show? Like, all of these things, instead of just enjoying my time with the book. So I was like, as soon as it's in a book club, it automatically has a little bit of fault to it because I'm picking apart the things to say in a live show.
Let's see. Millennials are old, apparently. That's a conversation in the chat right now.
I'm not a millennial. Technically, I'm younger than that.
I mean, I'm just gonna sit over here and feel old real quick.
I'm a baby. Fine. I'm a cusper. I'm technically right in between and Gen Z, depending on where you look at it. But I know they added me. There's like a judges Discord for Spiffbow, and they obviously, like, I'm a part of it. And they were all talking about ages, and I was just like, I'm gonna come over here as a baby. I am 25. They were talking about TikTok. I was like, yeah, I have a TikTok. They're like, none of us have TikToks. I was like, don't worry, I got you. We can have TikToks.
Cassidy, by the end of this, all of the judges now have bookish TikToks, and like that'd be really funny. I'm on the young, like, I don't know. I don't even know. I'm a millennial, but like, I feel like I share a lot of Gen X sensibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm 91, so I'm like,
okay, yeah,
you know, older.
my sister's 92, so
Okay. Yeah, it is funny though, because a lot of people I think I'm a lot younger than I am, and I bet you get the opposite where people think you're older than you are because of.
I don't know. I think people think I'm
Maybe?
a baby. I look
I
quite
mean,
young, so
you do.
uh,
Yeah. I think it's more like, and this is going to sound horrible, but I think a lot of the older people are like, you're 25 and you're already like reading all these big fantasy series. And like when I was 25, I was like, I read Mistborn. That was like it. So it's impressive that you've like, again, like I said in the beginning, I was really impressed with scrolling through your Goodreads and like, man, I got to catch up.
a lot of those have probably only read the first in the series though.
Have you finished Faithful in the Falling? Because I saw you really liked Malice.
No. I didn't love the second. I gave it 4 stars. Like I really liked it, but I didn't love it the way I loved Malice. And then I just soft DNF'd the 3rd book because I wasn't in the mood for it. And I did the same thing with Shadow of the Gods recently. I read it, but I had just read Fourth Wing, which is like crack. Like that's just YA crack essentially. And afterwards, I was like, I cannot switch from this like YA romance fantasy new adult smutty book to epic fantasy, and I was like, this just needs to go bye-bye till I'm in the mood for it. But Faithful and Fallen sits there in shame and stares at me on like this John Gwynne shelf. But
I mean,
yet.
We'll get to it
One day. Yeah.
I haven't read this. It's a trilogy after the first 4, right?
Yeah.
I haven't read that yet, and I have Shadow of the Gods on my shelf, just like everything else. I'm excited to read the first one. I've heard a lot of good things about it, but
I got 50 pages or so into it, and I just knew it wasn't. I was like, this is not the right mood. Like, I was like, I should be loving this. Like, and I'm pretty good at knowing that nowadays. So.
There are several people in the comments that would like you to know that yes, they would have done it your version of Spiffbow again, and there's some ire even where Mel says, I would have done it, ma'am.
Well, yeah, you didn't have a choice, so you don't count.
Argent Rabe, I did enjoy my time of CASSIDY version. I would have done it again. So, I mean, it sounds like your team's excited.
Yeah, I feel like neither of them count because I like asked them to join my team and they were just like, why are you asking? Of course.
Yeah.
Like, okay, because I was like so polite about it too. And I was like, so I'm officially a judge. Please feel free to say no. Like, don't feel obligated. And they're like, of course. Like, cool, thank you.
It's like asking somebody to be a bridesmaid for your wedding, and they're like, why are you asking me?
Yeah, like who's saying no to that? Like
who's saying no?
So rude. I also realized that there's champagne glasses in my name. And that's because of the readathon I'm in and not for normal things. And I'm like, oh, that's awkward.
You're fine. I'm not offended. There has been alcohol consumed on this channel in the past, so I'm not offended.
I'm drinking out of a solo cup, so I definitely have alcohol going, but
that's totally fine. I don't, just because I didn't think of it before we started.
Kegerator, so nice. Summertime is nice.
Lantern says, reading with the intention of reviewing and vlogging sounds similar to writing with distinction between editing and drafting. Yeah, kind of. Oh, Coco is a 91 as well. Nice. What month? I'm May. Chiago, if you need a suggestion, the book that wouldn't burn is great. You should both read it. Yes, Chiago.
I need to finish The Girl on the Ice first.
How is that?
I really like it. It's no Book the Ancestor, but I've read the first 2 now in the Book the Ice, so I just need to finish it. And I still really like it. It's younger. I feel like it reads younger than Book the Ancestor does.
Okay. I have only read the Book of the Ancestors, the only Mark Lawrence series that I have finished. But I do want to try. I have Prince of Fools on my shelf. That'll probably be the next one I pick up. And I know, correct me if I'm wrong, Tiago, but I think that one's kind of in the same world as Broken Empire, but isn't Broken Empire. And that's why Broken Empire was not for me. So I'm
yeah, I believe they're in the same world.
But different flavor, maybe.
Yeah, Mark Lawrence actually tweeted today, I think, about his like grimdark scaling. I saw on your thing, he said that his only book that's grimdark is Prince of Thorns. He's just been fucked ever since then.
Right?
But he did like a scale on Twitter that said like what he would rate them on the grimdark scale.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to go look. Yeah, I've heard that it was the same world. I was just double checking. Yeah, Jalen isn't even close to Jorg. Yeah, that's kind of what I was hoping.
Yeah, I read Prince of Thorns and King of Thorns. Okay. And I DNF'd Empire of Thorns technically.
Okay. How long ago did you read it?
Last April I read it.
Okay.
I really liked the first one, and then I just felt like it was more of the same. Which, like, I liked it, and I was like, if you like it, it's good to go. But it was just not what I was wanting. Yeah.
Let's see. Coco's in February. Well, happy belated birthday. So is Tiago in? You're in a readathon team. Is Tiago in it?
Yeah, he's on Mel's team. I'm co-hosting Team Partiers, which is why there's drinks in my name. And Mel is Ghost Tour, and he joined Ghost Tour instead of mine, and he'll never get to. I'll never let him down now. One day I'm gonna meet him and feed him raisins. That sounds really bad. I never said that.
Edit. I mean, I think there's a lot of people in our corner of the internet that share that sentiment, probably. So you're probably
I hope everyone just knows that Tiago really hates raisins, so I'm trying to torture him.
I'm really glad that happened on my live stream. I'm not gonna lie. Anita and Tiago are arguing in the comments. So, anyways,
I feel like that's every stream.
Every stream, yes. So yeah, I feel like, what is, for kind of a wrap up, what is a book that you've read recently besides Fourth Wing, since we've talked about that one already, that you really, really liked that you would recommend to everybody in the chat?
Oh no, don't do this to me.
I should have sent you the questions ahead of time. I'm sorry.
Honestly, you can make me introduce my channel though, so I will forgive you for everything, because I hate introducing. When people are like, introduce yourself, talk about your channel. One time I just said, hi, I'm Cassidy, I read books and talk about books. I'm like, you already knew that.
That's fair.
Okay.
The shelves are just for show though, right?
Yeah, I don't actually read books.
Yeah, that's, a lot of people think booktubers don't read books, so that checks out.
This is true. I recently found out there's a website called Guru Gossip, or Gossip Guru, and I spent a lot of my life one night reading through all of the stupid things people complain about, and a lot of them is that we don't actually read. And I was like, nobody is on BookTube trying to make, like, if you didn't actually read, like, BookTube is not the YouTube platform that's going to make you big bucks and famous. Like,
I mean, I'm getting some, like, dollars over here. I don't know. I know. I had to laugh because I don't know if you saw, I don't know if you follow Mike's book reviews on Twitter, but he made, people had accused him of switching, because he was doing a whole bunch of shorts suddenly, like everybody else. And somebody was accusing him of doing shorts for more ad revenue. And he had a video that I think got like, I can't remember how many, don't quote me on this, but it was like thousands and thousands and thousands of tens of thousands of views. And he'd made like 64 cents on it. And he was like, yep, doing it for the big bucks.
Yeah, shorts revenue is not where it's at.
No. No.
Also, thank you, Summer, for letting me say Fourth Wing. Technically, I don't think I would recommend this to a lot of people in this chat because it's a fantasy romance. But my last 5-star other than Fourth Wing was Serpent in the Wings of Night, which is a new adult fantasy romance about a girl who is human and was taken in as adopted by the Vampire King, and now she is competing in like a Hunger Games type thing against all these other vampires, and then if she wins she gets to like wish upon the goddess for something, and there's a romance. It was like candy, and it's really good if you're in the mood for it. But
I do actually have people in my audience, shockingly, that do enjoy a good romance and a good YA novel. So
when it was announced that I was a Spiffbow judge, my latest videos had been me reading the series and then my fantasy romance TBR. And I sat there and I went, oh no, all these like classic fantasy people, like I read all of those, but they're going to come to my YouTube channel and just see my guilty pleasure reads.
Quick, put your featured video as like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Other than that, I'd probably say The War Eternals was probably the most recent series. I just binged it and I loved it. So
I'm so excited to read that one. I'm very excited. I have stopped saying I'm going to get to it soon because I don't know. But I hope I can get to it soon.
I didn't listen to them, but I've heard the audio is really good, and the first one is free on Audible Plus if you have it.
Ooh, okay, nice.
If you want to attempt some audio.
I have Heliotrope, and that's doing quite well because the narrator is actually an elderly gentleman, so it kind of sounds, and he's got a really wonderful voice, and it just kind of sounds like your grandfather's reading you a fantasy story, which is really fun. But after that, I did get The Blade itself because I have heard so many people, and now that I know the story, I wanted to kind of try listening to an audiobook of a book that I've already read to kind of see how that goes. So, but yeah, I'm definitely, and I also have Andrew Meredith's Deathless and Bone Shroud, and I've read Deathless already, but I haven't read Bone Shroud, so I need to get to that one too.
That is sitting in my Kindle. Wait for me one day.
Yep. The never-ending TBR. But yeah, well, thank you so much to the chat for being patient and like sticking with us, even though we thought you ghosted us for a while.
20 minutes.
I know. I was like, they just have nothing to say, and that's so unlike them.
Yeah, I was like, wow, you guys just want to hear me chat? Thank you.
They're just hanging on your every word here. But yeah, Cassidy, I want to say thank you for spending your evening talking to me on my channel.
Wait, I want a recommendation from you.
Okay. I always forget I just ask the questions. I don't have to answer them. What have I read recently? Oh my goodness. What have I read recently?
Pure panic.
I know. Let's see. Okay, I have one. And quite a few of my audience have heard me recommend this already. I did a dedicated review for it, but it's so good. Blood of Crows by Alex C. Pierce.
I have seen that one around. I saw you had a video on it, but I hadn't watched it.
This is so good. This is one definitely in my top indies that I've read so far. It's a debut. It's basically like for anybody who enjoys the kind of Six of Crows, Lies of Locke Lamora kind of like con artist, young coming of age main character, but dropped into a murder mystery in a fantasy world.
I'm intrigued.
Right? That was the author's way of putting it. And I was like, that's brilliant. I'm totally using that whenever I pitch it to people. And it's the way that he formats the murder mystery part of the story was very fresh and unique. And I really liked it. And he surprised me multiple times in this book. It's so good. So good. So that's my, and it's a pretty simple, straightforward kind of elemental magic system where, men and women have like different elemental options basically for the magic system, and it all takes place in one city, so it's a fairly intimate setting.
I do love a good isolated setting. That's
right. No traveling. there's some running on rooftops, but no like long traveling. So yeah, that would be mine, and I think that more people really need to read this. I really loved it.
I love that Andrew's telling me that I can read it because it was in Spiffbow last year. Honestly, I'm having that problem right now. My June content was supposed to be all Spiffbow content, and I was like, now I can't read any of you yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna have to do some research to find some indies that aren't in Spiffbow this year to read.
Right. I was gonna say something else about this and I totally forgot.
I will chat forever, so.
I mean, same. I'm yeah, I thought this was in Spiffbow last year. I couldn't remember.
I also thought it was, but I also couldn't remember. I was like, that cover is so familiar.
It's very, and honestly, like, this is a sleeper that I think easily could have gone farther if it had been in a different blog or that, like, whatever, because I think it's really well done. Also, you know how we info dumps are notorious in fantasy, and there's a right way to do them, and there's definitely wrong ways to do them. There was a little bit of a backstory that was shared like 2/3 of the way through this book that I think is one of my favorite inserts of info backstory ever.
I love that. Unpopular opinion, I like an info dump.
Do you?
Yeah. Give me
all the details.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not opposed to them as long as they're not just pages and pages and pages of exposition.
You have to be done right.
Yes. Yeah.
Best ones for me are like school settings when they're like, they feel very like real. Cause like you're getting an info dump, but the kid's in class. So like
right.
we're in class.
Yep.
In Fourth Wing, she like, when she's nervous, recites facts. And I was like,
nice.
I talk to myself. So I feel like that was so real. And you were just like learning facts about the world. And I was like, such a good info dump.
Relatable. Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Lantern Valley says Skims action reads info dumps. Whoops. Oh, Lantern Valley. I totally forgot to ask you about dragons because I did notice a theme in your content and on your Goodreads that we do like a dragon over on Cassidy's channel.
Hypothetically, I like dragons. In actuality, do I? I'm not quite sure yet. I don't like the boy and the dragon trope. But if you have a school setting with dragons, I'm sold.
Okay.
I typically think that I'm unpopular and I like dragon books that aren't about dragons. I prefer something like The Rage of Dragons, where the dragon isn't really the main focus, but it adds to the world and the story still.
Well, and the dragons in that one are just, it's such a unique, from my perspective, like it was such a unique take on what dragons can be in a fantasy story.
Same with live ships. If you think about it, the dragons really aren't the main part of that story.
That's my next Hob trilogy. I'm very excited about it.
I love live ships so much. So I definitely have learned that I like when the dragons add to the world, but I don't necessarily need them to be the main focus, which I feel like is very unpopular. Everyone's always complaining that dragons, it's sold as a dragon book, and then there's not enough dragons. And I'm just over here like, yeah, I like it.
Give me more than that. I like that it has dragon in the cover. Mel, yeah, you'll have to let me know if you read Blood of Crows, because I want more people to read it. It's so good. Mel also says, I'm dying for the third Rage of Dragons. I know he's like really deep into writing it right now, which is very exciting.
I love that series.
I have not read book 2 yet. That's a series that I started and have not read book 2. I was going to read it during the TBR Blitz readathon in April, and then I read a different second book instead.
I say wait now. Like,
yeah, read it closer.
A really long time to pick up book 2. I think actually Mel forced me to at some point. And I loved it. And then I think I forced her to pick up book 2. But in some ways, like that is actually one of the stories I've always thought about rereading, just because it took so long for us to get like book 3.
Yeah.
Which fair, like completely. But
I mean, if he's gonna churn out books, like I still remember even at the time when I hadn't read as widely when I first read Rage of Dragons, just being amazed that was a debut.
Holy cow, that book!
Like that's an incredible debut. Which is funny because I think Tao is such a polarizing protagonist, which I don't dislike. I actually don't mind polarizing protagonists, depending on how they're polarizing.
I love. I always, if there's an unlikable character, I'm probably sold.
Good to know.
The more cinnamon roll and likable, the least likely I am to like them. I think polarizing characters, unlikable characters are very real to me. We all know someone that we don't like and that is making decisions that we don't agree with. Even people I like, I'm like, what are you doing?
Well, and even like on our best days, like all of us have moments where we are selfish and we do, you know, we make the wrong decisions and we treat other people not the way that we would want to be treated ourselves. And so like, to me, that's very real. And the classic hero trope to me also gets kind of boring if it's not done well, because it's like, yeah, but people aren't really like this.
Yeah, I agree. I've never seen someone always pick the best option. Like it just does not feel real to me most of the time. So I like a little bit of grit in my characters.
You guys are ridiculous. I love the chats on these live streams so much. Like I love getting a chance to talk face to face with other booktube friends, but like the chat is always just
I love when people have never heard me talk before and then they are quoting me. It's so funny. I'm like, wait, I said that? Awkward. It's like such a normal sentence for me to say.
It's true, though. Lantern Valley says, this one reader forced me to read this. The other reader forced me to read this. Booktubers bully each other into reading each other's faves. Confirmed. It's so true, though. It really is. Yep. Buddy reads. I'm trying to be more careful with buddy reads because I do feel like it's easy to get burnt out when you commit to too many. Andrew, Tori. Yes, Andrew. Yes, I know. I promise I will talk about the book I'm writing before we end. I promise. As long as I can at least root for them, then I consider that likable in my book. Yeah. I feel like Nona's kind of like that, where she's, you know, she's a very morally, she's not, I don't know if I'd necessarily call her morally gray per se, but she's not always likable. She's
Maria
not.
Is reading Red Sister with me for my book club for the first time, and she is normally not a morally gray character lover, and I'm very excited to see her thoughts on Nona, because Nona just like borders that line so well.
She really does. I think what's easy to root for with Nona is that like she doesn't care about other people until she does, and when she does, her loyalty is like you can't turn it off, and that's something that like I relate to and I appreciate about her, that like once you're in her circle, Nona will show up.
I agree.
And that's pretty cool.
I just love how often Anitha and Tiago are arguing.
They are like bickering siblings in every live stream chat ever, which is hilarious.
Tread lightly.
Fight in the chat. Yeah, Nuclear Katie, I like polarizing as long as I can understand where the character is coming from. I agree. Like if the character motives don't make sense, I get really upset very quickly. I'm reading a book, Buddy reading a book actually right now, that a lot of people really love, and I'll just say it right now. This is surprising me with certain things in it. This Lancelot by Giles Christian, it's a historical fiction. There's some things that I am excited to talk about in my.
Oh, I love that for you. That is the one genre I don't do. Historical fiction.
I love historical fiction in certain amounts. Like I have to take breaks from it and stuff, and it depends on Arthurian legend. And this is something I'm going to talk about in my review too. Arthurian legend is also not really my thing. Like it's just not an era of mythology that I'm really like, or history that I'm super thrilled about reading. But this completely did not go in the direction I thought it was going to.
I love that. Yeah.
Not at all. And I'm like not here for it, really.
Oh, I don't love that then.
Well, I do, because it's definitely making me, one thing I really appreciate about books that I don't jive with is it really makes me step back and say, okay, but why? Why am I not liking this? Can I articulate that? Which I think is important, and it's an important skill to learn, especially if we're going to be reviewing books. But yeah, I have things to say about it.
I'm excited. I will never read it because I do not like historical fiction. I read almost any other genre, but I've really learned to don't like that one. Although I always say that it's very interesting because like the Poppy War, technically historical fiction, like really. And She Who Became the Sun is also somewhere, and I really liked that book, but normally don't vibe with. So other than that, I read pretty much anything.
I will read your historical fiction and you can read my romance.
Oh, perfect. Although I say this, but I don't like romance, like contemporary romance. I read it sometimes, but
just more like fantasy romance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I dabble in some dark romance. But contemporary romance, no.
Spicy. Go. Monique just bought Blood of Crows. That makes me very happy. I want to hear what you think of it, Monique. Catching up on the...
Okay. I like that we tried to end this like 20 minutes ago.
Honestly, like this is how I'm such a like I will talk with people for 5 hours. I have no issue with that. So I mean, here we are. I was gonna say, Andrew was yelling at me to talk about the book I'm writing, which I should probably do. Yeah, I mean, it's weird because I feel like in live streams, I don't really view that as like, oh, promotional time. It's like just having a conversation.
I know I brought some new people to your channel today, so you definitely need to promote.
Okay, well, thank you.
I'm like, I know some of these people were like, wait, a new booktuber? Yay!
Right? It's fun because I feel like so many of our channels, like it's fun to start overlapping because everybody has their own kind of bubble and it's fun to kind of overlap in different areas. And I actually enjoy watching booktubers that read different things than I do because it kind of expands my awareness of what's going on in the general community. And you never know, like you might put out a book sometime on your channel that you're like, there's this YA romance that was just like S tier and here's why. I'm not going to say never. I doubt it'll happen, but you never know. I might be like, today I'm in the mood for this.
Yeah. When Alan does Jeopardy, it's always a reminder of how often I think I watch things that aren't my typical thing because he'll have like the randomest category and I'm like, how was out of all of those categories that's what I got right? Like how?
Hang on, sweetheart, I'll be right there.
Yes.
Go. No, it's fine. My husband is very capable. So
I love that. That's
yes. He is also a parent. It is really funny because sometimes like, this is a total just life side note, but people are like, oh, you left your husband with the kids, oh man. And I'm like, well, yeah, he's their parent too. Like he's not a babysitter. But yeah, anyway, what were we talking about?
I don't know. Let's talk about what you're writing.
Okay, so I am, for those of you that don't know, I held it up earlier. Phased is my YA dark supernatural fantasy, and it's YA because that's the category it's in. It's very dark for YA, kind of more along the like Six of Crows kind of level, I would say. About two werewolf sisters who are basically have been lab rats for most of their lives, and they are given a small sliver of freedom to prove that they can assimilate into human society safely. And if they're kind of on a ticking time bomb timeline, and if they can't prove themselves in a certain amount of time, they will be going back to the cells for the rest of their lives. So that's kind of the like super horrible beginning pitch.
I butchered that in my recent haul.
It's fine.
That sounded so good.
Yeah, it's fine.
That's
it's not pitch. Thank you. Themes for people that want the flyover: Motley crew of found family, sisterhood bond, very deep dive into mental health themes and coping mechanisms and trauma and all of that. It is not a toxic romance. Like you will find no toxic romance in my YA supernatural book because I wrote it specifically because I was tired of that. So yeah, that's kind of the overview. And now I am working on book 1 of my epic fantasy trilogy, which hopefully will be out by the end of this year. And that is, the first one's called Bloodstones. And I am still stumbling my way through a pitch for this book because I haven't even finished writing it yet. So it's really like I haven't solidified the elevator pitch yet, but I started the idea because I wanted to write about a group of boys who were taken from different points in their kingdom and trained to be basically highly elite bodyguards for a kingdom. And that's kind of the core of the story. And then I started adding POVs from other areas, and there's a succession that's being contested. And I'm bringing in a lot of influence of, it's not really Asian inspired, but there's some flavor of that in it. And yeah, and I'm using spears as the main weapons instead of swords, which I was very excited about because I had to laugh when we were talking about our writing combat for imposter syndrome. Rob was like, nobody uses spears. Spears are so cool. We should use more spears. And I was like, yes, got it. I'm using spears. So yeah, lots of themes of identity and what happens when somebody takes your identity and tells you who you are, and how long can that, how long until that cracks. So that's kind of like some of the initial brainchild pitch for you guys. But I will do. So thank you.
Get it to me soon. Please keep writing. Stop booktubing. Write it all.
It's so bad. Like trying to balance being a mom and doing booktube, which, as you know, is like pretty much a part-time, full-time job in and of itself. And reading and writing and so
there's always things.
And
then also having a life, like just wanting to spend time doing other things, like
What other things?
This is true.
There's books. And what else is there? We just live in caves and read. Which is
pretty much
sadly more true than I think it should be.
I live in a basement.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the and Sindri. Yeah. So okay, Andrew, I should just let Andrew on the stream, and he's read it, what I have so far, so he can pitch it better than I can probably. But yeah, he and Chiago are kind of my writers group, and they've been incredibly helpful in bringing this book to the point that it's at. But Sindri is one of the other POVs, and she is a hot-headed warrior, and that's one of my favorite archetypes to write. And she's very selfish sometimes and does things on impulse, right? But she also has a sister, and there's a good sisterhood bond there, and very tribal kind of setting. So, and what I'm kind of doing is bringing the two sides of what's going to be the war in book 2 onto the page, so that, you know, eventually, I'm not promising anything, but
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, I really am fascinated by, we have all of these myths and legends of, you know, especially with war and, you know, big battles, these larger than life warriors that come off the page, and they get, the stories about them get, you know, bigger and bigger and bigger. And I kind of wanted to write the origin of some of the myths and legends, and like how that starts and how it then transfers into the series that I'll be writing subsequent to this.
Oh, fun.
So, yeah. And that one, the subsequent series I've been working on for about 10 years now, 10, 11 years now. So the world I'm, you know, I've been building for way too long.
I love a well-developed world.
I'm just doing my best. So,
yeah.
So as a reader, and you love world, so I'm totally going to, like, I have a captive audience, and I'm going to ask you as an author and take notes. What do you, as somebody who loves worlds, what are the details that you really love reading about in the world?
Okay. This is probably very unique to me, and it actually, like, I have Nevernight right here to talk about it. It's not a spoiler because it's 10 pages in, but there's a paragraph where he starts to talk about an arachnid. And there's a metaphor about this whole arachnid and how the arachnid is protective of its kids and stuff in this world. Yeah. And then it like relates to like her mom. And I'm doing like a spoiler vlog for Nevernight, and I was sitting there in my vlog, and I was like, this makes me feel like you've thought of everything. The War Eternal series does this really well too, where they start to talk about these things that probably didn't matter, but like we have spiders that do really weird things in our world. So like I feel like when you have like little things that like probably aren't really important to the plot, but like that made sense in the story he was telling right then, because he was trying to like showcase how this mother felt about their kid.
Right.
I just feel like you actually understand this world. Like, you know, every little beat. Like, you know that there's this weird effed up spider. So of course you also know how the politics work and how all those things work. Like, I love when you add like little elements like that make it kind of feel a little bit more like enriched. I feel like that's very probably me though, because I feel like most people don't want random facts about spiders. It's not spiders in general, but just like things. But
it shows that, like, because I think fantasy tends to be very epic in scope typically, right? And so I think it shows a balance as a writer when you're able to get really down into the tiny details that have their own impact on a much larger world. And I think that's really cool.
When you read War Eternals, he talks about all the demons in it all the time. And I tweeted him, I was like, I want a book that's just the demons. Like, it says this demon says little facts about them, like, you know, like an encyclopedia, because there's so many of them. And it just made me feel like this world was just so full. Like, even though most of them never came to play in the story later on, like they were brought up in a conversation that felt very authentic, but like weren't needed. Right. But it just felt like very real to me. Like, it just felt like he had thought about everything, and he knew what demons were on the top of the totem pole and what are the lowest ones. And
let's see.
I have a DNF Children of Time twice. But I still own it. It's sitting over there somewhere. So I will give it another go, and I have not tried his fantasy yet. So I do need to try the fantasy.
Alethea, Tori, have your kids inspired anything in your writing? For sure. I mean, I am very much of the opinion that write what you know. And like, obviously, I've never been a werewolf, but like,
I thought you were. You're telling me you're not?
I mean, I have to keep up appearances of normalcy, Cassidy. Some of my closer friends are going to comment in the chat and be like, wait, but you are though. So I'm very inspired by human relationships because I have been in so many of them through my life with, you know, my parents and my friends and extended people I've only met once, people that I've only met over the, like, so you have all these different relationships from which to draw inspiration and how people interact with each other. And yeah, my kiddos, I think, like, I definitely have, you'll see there's a character you meet very early on in the Bloodstones where she has a young child, and just the, you know, the memories of my child not going to sleep and how, like, you're up with them and you're exhausted and you're barely functioning, but you have this baby that will not go to sleep. And there's this really cute moment where the main POV, who's her older brother, the baby's older brother, comes in and kind of takes her from her mother for a few minutes, and they have a little conversation. And that was, I'm pulling from a lot of those. I haven't like put my children into a book. I don't know. I'm sure there will be inspiration moments of that, but I don't know that I'll ever directly put them specifically into books. I don't know. I'd rather just be inspired by them and have them see little bits and pieces everywhere, if that makes sense. And also, this is a pretty dark fantasy, so like,
don't put your kids in them to do some brutal things to them in the world.
Right. And I am the type of author that my best compliment is when my readers are like, I cried. I'm like, best day ever. And that's, I love that. I love when, because it shows an emotional investment in the characters that kind of transcends a level of we're just reading a book, you know, which is very cool. So I'm a sadist when it comes to my poor readers. So Starting at
just the chaos of Alan joining the chat already is just which Alan is this?
Tired Alan. Did you watch the new video posted? I think it was this morning.
I haven't.
It's very funny. You will appreciate it. It's like book hauls are great fun, but it was a brand new Alan debuting and doing a book haul, and it was quite wonderful. So yeah.
That's great.
But yeah. All right. Well, let's try this again.
One more time.
No. This is the Minnesota goodbye. It's fine. But yeah, I really appreciate getting a chance to chat with you. I've been meaning to have this discussion on my channel for ages and really wanted to and like I think the day after I asked you to do Book Friends chat, you announced that you were now a Spiffbow judge. So I was like, oh, well, now we have even more to talk about.
That happened so quickly. So
yeah,
thanks for having me on here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited for you to be a part of Spiffbow, and I'm glad that we finally got a chance to chat, and I'm sure it will not be the last time. But thank you for joining me this evening. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
So awkward endings.
I know. It's like, thanks for being here today. Thanks, you're welcome. And
then we all letting me just like chat.
Yeah, these are kind of my, like, I love doing the content, but I really love just getting a chance to chat with book friends, because I feel like for a lot of us in our quote unquote real lives, like, people just don't understand. So I appreciate book friends immensely. Thank you guys so much to the chat for hanging out with us and being awesome. And yep, Lantern's going to go binge some Cassidy videos. Excellent. Go check out the Malice. She said it was a booktube besties video.
There is a playlist of booktube besties. It's in there.
Nice. And we'll just have to watch them all to get to that one, right? Yeah. Get you some views. That's why I had you on the channel, so that I could, help out and get you some more subs.
Thanks. I complimented so awkward. Thank you. Everybody, go back to reading. You don't need to look at my channel ever again.
It's down in the description.
It's fine.
It's down in the description box. Go sub to Cassidy. But yeah, awesome. Well, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. Thank you, chat. And I can't see your comments anymore, but thank you, chat. And yeah, we'll do the awkward. I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys. Awkward wave commencing.